His hands were on my waist, strong and steady, lifting me effortlessly onto the marble counter in our newly remodeled kitchen. The pendant lights above flickered gently as his lips met mine with a fire that had not dulled in 8 years of marriage. I remember giggling into his mouth, wrapping my legs around him, the scent of his cologne flooding my senses, that warm cedarwood and something distinctly Kyle. But even in that moment, while he whispered how beautiful I looked, how lucky he was, and how he could not wait to take me upstairs, all I could think about was Mason. Mason's lips. Mason's hands. Mason's messages waiting on my phone just a few feet away. Kyle loved me loudly. And I betrayed him silently. Thank you so much for being here. Whether you are a returning viewer or brand new to the channel, I appreciate you deeply. Your time, your comments, your support, they mean everything. To those who have subscribed, thank you for powering this storytelling journey. And to our new and returning viewers who have not yet hit that subscribe button, I cannot wait for you to do so. It is the fuel that keeps this channel alive and burning bright with raw, real stories like this one. Do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Was it worth it? Was it selfish? Was it love or just lust? Now let me take you back, to where it all began. My name is Rachel Miller. I was 34 when I made the worst decision of my life. I lived in a quiet suburb just outside Richmond, Virginia. Our neighborhood was the kind where people waved from porches, and kids played with sidewalk chalk until the sun dipped. I had a loving husband, a well-paying job as a project manager, and a life most women in my shoes prayed for. And yet, I burned it to the ground. Kyle Miller was the kind of man who did everything loudly. His love. His laugh. His loyalty. He made birthdays feel like national holidays. He left notes in my purse, brought me coffee in the mornings, and kissed me even when my breath stank or I wore that oversized t-shirt with holes. We had been married for 8 years. We never fought. Or maybe that was the problem. It was too perfect. Or maybe I was the problem. Then came Mason Carter. Mason was 30. Newly divorced. He had just joined our company as a marketing consultant. His desk was a few feet from mine. He had this sarcastic smirk, tattoos that peeked beneath his sleeves, and the kind of confidence that was not loud but dangerous. He never flirted directly. No. That would have made it easier to resist. Instead, he noticed things. He would say things like, "You changed your perfume, it suits your vibe." Or, "Your husband must have to fight off a lot of men." He made me feel seen. But not in a wholesome way. In a hungry way. It started with lunch breaks that ran a little too long. Then came after-hours meetings with no real agenda. And finally, one night. Everything changed. It was a Thursday. Kyle was on a business trip to Chicago. I was working late. Or at least, that was the excuse I had texted him. Mason offered to drop me home. It was raining, and I pretended to forget my umbrella. In the car, the silence was loaded. I remember my thighs shaking, not from cold, but from nerves. He glanced over at me and said, "You do not belong in that perfect box he put you in." That was the final strike. I leaned in first. The kiss was reckless. Tongues, teeth, fingers pulling at clothes. We never made it inside my house. The back seat of his car became the place I first betrayed Kyle. I do not remember the music playing or the rain pouring, only the heat between us and the bitter aftertaste of guilt immediately after. The next morning, I made Kyle breakfast. French toast, eggs, fresh coffee, the works. He video called from his hotel and said, "I miss your face." I told him I missed his too. But inside, I felt hollow. That should have ended it. But it did not. The affair continued. Mason and I would sneak out during lunch breaks. Sometimes we would meet at a hotel on the outskirts of town. We made rules: no falling in love, no texting after 10 p.m., and no talking about Kyle. We broke all those rules. Mason started leaving notes in my car. He would touch my thigh during meetings. He even followed me on a quick weekend work trip once and spent the night in my hotel room while Kyle thought I was attending a panel discussion. And through it all, Kyle was still loving me loudly. He planned a surprise trip to Aspen. He had our backyard redone just because I once said I missed the smell of pine. He even wrote me a poem once, a real one. Not cheesy. Honest. Deep. Beautiful. And I was scheduling my next hookup. One afternoon, I came home early from a rendezvous with Mason. Kyle was in the kitchen, baking. He smiled at me, flour on his cheek, and said, "Smells like perfume." New? I froze. He kissed me anyway. Then handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a bracelet engraved with, "For every loud moment of love." I smiled. I cried. I made love to him that night with the kind of passion I had not given him in years. But I was still lying. Exactly 1 week later, on a quiet Saturday morning, Kyle walked into our bedroom while I was texting Mason. I had just sent him a photo, nothing too explicit, just a teasing image of me in a silk robe. Kyle had a white envelope in his hand and a smile on his face. "Babe," he said, "I need you to get dressed. I have a surprise." I panicked. I tried to slide my phone under the pillow, but he had already seen my flushed face. Still, he did not ask questions. He just handed me the envelope. Inside were 2 plane tickets to Greece. A second honeymoon. To rekindle what we already burned brightly, he had written. And there I was, halfway in love with a man who was not my husband. Half naked under a robe Kyle had gifted me last Christmas. And completely, utterly shattered. I stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring at the reflection of a woman who no longer recognized herself. My skin glowed under the robe Kyle bought me from Paris. My lips were tinted red, Mason's favorite color. My heart, though, was split clean down the middle. The plane tickets to Greece sat on our nightstand, unopened since that morning. Kyle had planned everything. He called it a reset. I called it a trap. Not because he meant it that way, but because I knew if I went, I would have to face every lie I had told and the man who loved me more than I ever deserved. But I said yes anyway. Because what else could I say? We were leaving in 4 days. For the next few days, I became 2 women. By day, I was Rachel Miller, the perfect wife, the woman packing bikinis and sandals for a romantic getaway, smiling in family FaceTime calls, laughing at Kyle's dad jokes, helping him pick outfits for the trip. By night, I was someone else. Mason and I met at a boutique hotel just 20 minutes away. He had started calling me his secret. It excited him. It made me feel dangerous. It made me feel wanted. But that night, after we had sex, hard, fast, reckless, Mason rolled over and said something that chilled me. "I do not want to be your secret forever." I laughed at first. Thought he was joking. He was not. "I want you to leave him," he said. "Come to New York with me. Start over." I froze. Because I had never told him I loved him. I had never even imagined a life with Mason. I wanted him in my bed. In my messages. In the shadows. But not in my future. I made some excuse about work. About the trip. About timing. He stared at me long and hard. Then said, "You are never going to leave him, are you?" I kissed him in response. I used sex to silence him. And it worked. That night, I came home and found Kyle asleep on the couch, hugging a travel guide. The guilt nearly broke me. 2 days before the trip, my best friend Leah came over with wine and that knowing look in her eyes. She had known me since college. She could read my lies like subtitles. "You have lost weight," she said, sipping Chardonnay. "Or maybe just sleep." I shrugged. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Are you cheating on Kyle?" My stomach flipped. I forced a laugh. Are you serious? She did not smile. I saw you last week. Outside the Madison Hotel. Getting into a black car with someone who was not Kyle. My blood turned to ice. I was there for work, I said too quickly. She nodded slowly, but I could see the gears turning in her mind. You know what you are doing, right? Kyle worships the ground you walk on. I hated her in that moment. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right. She left an hour later, but the silence she left behind was louder than her words. We landed in Santorini on a Friday afternoon. The whitewashed buildings, blue domes, the sun setting over the cliffs, it was everything you saw in travel ads. And for a while, I pretended. I held Kyle's hand. Took pictures. Smiled in selfies. He booked us a private villa overlooking the ocean. The first night, he cooked for me. Steak and roasted potatoes, my favorite. Then he played our wedding song from his phone and asked me to dance. I cried. Not because I was happy. But because I did not deserve any of it. He kissed me that night like he had not in years. We made love slowly, gently, the kind of intimacy that was rare in our busy lives. He looked at me afterward and said, I missed you. Even when you were right beside me, I missed you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confess. But I stayed silent. The morning after our third day in Santorini, I threw up. It started suddenly, a wave of nausea, cold sweats, and the taste of iron in my mouth. Kyle rushed to my side. Maybe it is something you ate. But I knew better. My cycle had been late. I had blamed stress. Then travel. Then ignored it altogether. But now, I could not ignore the truth. While Kyle was out getting breakfast, I walked to a nearby pharmacy. Bought a test. I peed on the stick. Waited. When the lines appeared, I collapsed to the floor. Pregnant. Only I had no idea whose it was. For 2 days, I said nothing. Kyle thought I was coming down with a bug. He pampered me, massaged my feet, and made ginger tea. I smiled and thanked him while secretly Googling due date calculators and trying to count backwards. It was impossible to know for sure. That night, as we watched the sunset from our private balcony, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. I want to start over with you, Rachel. No distractions. No pressure. Just us again. I nodded, my hand over my stomach, guilt drowning me. And then, everything turned. We arrived home from Greece late Friday night. I was exhausted. Emotionally shredded. I had Mason's number blocked temporarily, and my plan was to disappear from his life. But the next morning, I came downstairs and froze. Kyle was sitting at the kitchen island. Across from him was Mason. And beside Mason was Leah. My heart nearly stopped. Mason stood up and smiled. You left your phone unlocked in the hotel, he said. Nice vacation, by the way. I looked at Leah, but she would not meet my eyes. Kyle turned slowly. I wanted to see how long it would take for you to tell me. I opened my mouth. No sound came out. He walked over, placed my phone on the counter, and pressed play. The video started, a clip of me and Mason. Hotel room. Kissing. Moaning. Undeniable. I covered my face. Fell to my knees. He said nothing. He simply walked away. I spent the next 24 hours locked in our bedroom, vomiting, crying, unable to breathe. And then the next blow came. A letter. Slipped under the door. Inside, divorce papers. And at the bottom, scribbled in Kyle's handwriting. I loved you loudly. You betrayed me silently. But the world will know your silence now. I did not understand what he meant. Until I opened Instagram and saw the video. He had posted it. To everyone. The video had only been up for 2 hours. 2 hours. That was all it took to burn down everything I had built, everything I thought I was protecting with my silence. My phone buzzed non-stop, text messages from coworkers, missed calls from my mother, dozens of Instagram notifications. But the loudest reaction came from the comments section. They dragged me. Tore me apart. Labeled me everything from a selfish whore to a sociopath with no conscience. And maybe they were right. Maybe I was all of those things. I read each comment with trembling fingers, bile rising in my throat, unable to look away. The worst part? The caption Kyle wrote beneath the video. To the woman who had everything, and destroyed it for nothing. I loved you. Loudly. Proudly. Completely. May your silence echo louder than my love ever did. Kyle was gone. Vanished. Not a single trace of him remained in the house. He had moved out while I slept upstairs, leaving only his signature on the divorce papers and a receipt showing the video post was boosted. He paid to make sure everyone saw it. Our neighbors looked at me like I was infected. At the grocery store, 2 women I barely knew whispered my name like it was poison. One of them took a photo of me in the produce aisle and uploaded it to Facebook with the caption, "Homewrecker in aisle 5." Leah refused to speak to me. I called her over and over, but she never answered. I tried Mason, but his number had been disconnected. And just like that, I was alone. Utterly, devastatingly, loudly, alone. I was still pregnant. Amid the chaos, the shame, the heartbreak, the child growing inside me became the only thing grounding me to this world. I did not know whose it was. I could not even pray for it to be Kyle's, because I knew how far I had gone. But I went to the doctor alone. I took vitamins. I laid in bed at night whispering apologies to the tiny life inside me, apologies I never gave Kyle when it mattered. And then, another twist I never saw coming. One evening, nearly 3 weeks after the video went viral, there was a knock on my door. It was a courier. He handed me a thick brown envelope, then walked away without a word. Inside were black and white printed photographs. Dozens of them. Each one showing Mason, with Leah. In hotel lobbies. At restaurants. In bed. Staring at the images, something inside me cracked. My hands went numb. My throat closed. Was this revenge? No. This was reality. Mason had not just disappeared, he had turned to Leah. And Kyle had known the whole time. There was a sticky note inside the envelope, in Kyle's handwriting again. You broke me. So I broke your illusion. I had nothing left to scream. I had already screamed into my pillow until my voice left me. I had cried into the tub for hours until the water ran cold. I had prayed, cursed, thrown things, none of it brought peace. Now I sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by proof that the 2 people I thought I controlled, the lover and the best friend, had joined hands to destroy whatever pride I had left. Weeks passed. I heard nothing from Kyle. I attended therapy. Started journaling. Shut off social media. And slowly, painfully, I started preparing to raise the baby, alone. Then one cold morning, I received an email. Subject line, "You owe me the truth." From Kyle Miller. It was short. Meet me. Sunday. The park near our old place. Noon. Come alone. I did. I waited on a bench beneath the cherry blossom trees that were just beginning to bloom. He arrived on time. He looked thinner. Hardened. Older. But he was still Kyle. He sat beside me but did not look at me. I spoke first. I am pregnant. He closed his eyes. I figured. I do not know if it is yours. He nodded. Said nothing. I was going to tell you, I said. No, you were not. You were going to keep lying until you could not anymore. His voice was calm. Dead calm. The kind that only came after all the storms had passed. I said I was sorry. Again. 100th time. He finally looked at me. You always apologized when it was too late. That is what broke me, Rachel. Not just the cheating. Not the sex. It was the silence. You let me love you loudly while you gave yourself to someone else behind my back, like my love was not loud enough to deserve honesty. Tears fell. Mine. Not his. He stood. I will take the test. If it is mine, we will figure something out. But I will never come back to you. And then he walked away. This time, he did not look back. The paternity test came back 3 weeks later. It was Kyle's. I sat in the doctor's office, holding the results with shaking hands, my heart trying to leap from my chest. I sent Kyle the document. I said nothing else. He did not reply. A month later, I gave birth to a boy. I named him Caleb, after Kyle's grandfather. I sent a photo. He sent back a message. Thank you. He is beautiful. I will arrange child support. We will discuss visitation. But that is all. That was all. It has been 2 years. I live alone, in a smaller house. I work part-time from home while raising Caleb. Leah and Mason are no longer together. I heard through someone that it ended badly, just as toxic as it began. I have not dated since. Not because no one wants me, but because I no longer trust my own judgment. Kyle, he is engaged now. To someone new. Someone kind. Someone who never made him question his worth. I saw a photo of them on Instagram. They looked happy. I cried the whole night. Not because I wanted him back. But because I knew he would never love anyone like he loved me, and I ruined it. I was the silence in his symphony. I was the shadow in his sunshine. I was the betrayal behind his loudest love. To anyone listening. Do not mistake comfort for boredom. Do not crave chaos when you are already standing in peace. And most importantly, never let someone love you loudly while you betray them silently. Because silence. It screams forever.